with regard to language, no, we're not talking body language. Today we're talking aphasia, or different types of verbal language. Is a loss of language in some sort of way. Dysphasia is actually language impairment, but this term is never used. Everyone uses for the term aphasia, which actually means complete loss, but dysphasia is what we could be using if we wanted to prove ourselves superior to everyone else. Otherwise, just go ahead and use the term aphasia. Aphasiology is the study of language disturbances, if you're so inclined. So, semantic fluency and memory. Parts of our memory that allow us to name and categorize everything that we sense. If you can not remember what an object is, you might have problems with information stored in your brain, meaning lack of content. And if you can't put the pieces of knowledge together, then it might be your problems with processing. So those are two things to keep in mind when you're looking at semantic fluency. Language screening takes place in many different ways. There's verbal fluency tests, and then there's all of these tests. So there's the waist velocity. We've already had a good illustration of how vocabulary can play a good part in looking at someone's language skills. The RAT, which is the Wide Range Achievement Test, I believe it's in its 4th incarnation right now, has reading and spelling subtests. There's the WYAT, but I prefer the RAT for just screening. And then verbal fluency tests. So verbal fluency tests are a type of psychological evaluation where participants have to say as many words as they can in a given period of time. That's usually 60 seconds. So this category can be semantic, such as animals or fruit, or phonemic, meaning give me all the words that you can think of that start with the letter P, for instance. And the Springs and Strauss actually has norms for something called the FAS, which is all the words you can think of that start with F, all the words that you can think of that start with A, and all the words that you can think of that start with S. FAS tests are actually also part of the Boston Diagnostic Aphasia Exam. They're part of the DCAFs. They're found in the Stanford-Binet aphasia category. So it's in parts of many other tests, and it can be a standalone test because Springs and Strauss actually has norms for it for you. So if it's something that you want to administer, you completely can without actually having to buy anything for it. These tests look at semantic fluency. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the semantic fluency and picture naming. Picture naming is very, very fast and easy. It comes in a little box. You can take it on the plane. You can put it in your purse. Yeah, it's really, all you need is the protocol and the booklet. The protocol has the instructions on how to administer it. Another reason that I like the R-bands. Very compact, and it comes with this nifty stand. With regard to picture naming, I'd like for you to name each picture.
Carrot. Truck. Pin. Rose. Horse.
Okay, so you get the idea. There's 10 of them, and you go just like that, just very quickly. And that looks for word finding difficulties. And if they start stumbling, a qualitative way of looking at that is to note that they stumbled over words. They were eventually able to self-correct and tell you what the words were. For semantic fluency, you need to make sure you got your, you stretched, you got your pen, and it's got ink. You got your timer, which was left over there. You gotta make sure you got your timer in hand, because you're going to be writing a lot in 60 seconds. Now I'd like for you to tell me the names of all of the flowers and tree types that you can think of. I'm going to give you 1 minute to come up with as many as you can. Are you ready? Go.
Rose, tulip, pine tree, palm tree, oak tree, carnation, daisies,
Keep on going. You still got time.
tulips.
Okay. Good job. All right. So we saw he had 2 perseverations. So the actual instructions are not for trees and flowers, because that's a lot harder. But they're like the categories that Springs and Strauss would talk about would be animals, foods, different kinds of foods. And so you would have them come up with as many different types of foods or that sort of thing as they can think of. And you would write them down quickly. Now sometimes you've got someone with very fast processing speed with really good semantic fluency, and you're writing stuff down very, very quickly. Now if you noticed, he did take a really good approach. He started with flowers, and then he went to trees. So if it was, for instance, animals, as I have on the picture, they might start with farm animals or domestic animals. And the categories, they'd start naming as many from that category as possible. And that talks about a really good approach, is they're able to organize information into different categories, right? With subcategories within the category that you're asking them about. All right, so verbal fluency interpretation, as with all of the tests, the raw scores are the things that you're wanting to look at. Certainly T-scores, percentiles, because that will give you the standardized scores. However, you want to look at other ways of analyzing things by repetitions, perseverations. Like Mr. Cartwright did a great job of perseverating. He went back to tulips 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And so you're also looking at word clusters, as I just pointed out, and the ability to more extensive looks at language would be the Boston naming test, decafs, Boston dysphasia test.